Hey, it's Ben. Welcome back to my channel. I'd like to talk today a little bit about vision, and specifically the crisis of vision that we're having in the United States and around the world. See, the book of Proverbs tells us that without vision, the people perish. I can't exactly remember who said it, but it went something like this. We don't have a lack of talent, we have a lack of vision. I mean, talent, oh my goodness, people are getting so much smarter. Every few years, the IQ on average raises by 5 points across the board. Our athletes are getting bigger and stronger. Every few years, an Olympic record gets shattered by somebody new. In baseball, it's something like every year the average fastball is going up by 1/2 mile per hour. Look at basketball players from the 60s and 70s and 80s and compare them to players now. They're so much bigger, they're ripped, they're faster, they're much better at the sport. And yet, suicide rates have been on the rise. Drug addiction's been on the rise. Alcohol abuse has been on the rise. All these negative behaviors are skyrocketing. Why? It's not a lack of talent. It's a lack of vision. People are making more money than they ever did. The average person has the access to things that only the rich had before. Air conditioning, back in the day, that was something that was only for the rich. Those giant flat screen TVs that are everywhere, that was something that was only for the rich, and now we all have them. Even people that are below the poverty line, according to the government, can afford these things. It's not a lack of talent. It's a lack of vision. So my question is, how do you do something great? How do you be something great? Maybe you have a vision to do something great for Jesus. Maybe you have a vision to do something great, to invent a new product, to pioneer an industry, to build a company, to produce an innovation. But right now, you are the only one that sees it. Maybe you feel like Ezekiel when God said, "Who is going to stand in the gap for me?" He who stands in the gap usually starts by standing alone. You see, when you have a vision, the challenge is getting other people to buy in on the vision, to get other people to see the future, the reality, the potential that you see, to get others to see something that's currently nothing. If you have your Bible today, let's look at Matthew chapter 14, verse 27 through 31. This is a very familiar story. This is where Peter walks on water. And I'd like to extract a couple principles out of this passage and apply them to the idea of how to pursue your vision. Let me give you a little background. Jesus put his disciples on a boat and he sent them ahead. And as the boat's going out to stream, suddenly, without warning, a storm blows up. The boat's shaking, the disciples are scared, and off in the distance they see something. What was it? They think it was a ghost. They're not exactly sure what it was. But as it got closer, they hear the familiar voice of Jesus. He says, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "let me come to you on the water." Peter, always remembered as this rash guy who kind of goes for broke, who kind of goes all in. The kind of guy that maybe Jesus could build his church upon. For you see, Peter was about to do something great. So here are the first two of our principles today. First, you gotta abandon safety. You see, what's the safest place that you can be when you're out on the sea and there's a storm? A boat. The safety of the boat. But before any of this could happen, Peter had to leave the safety of the boat. So one, you got to abandon safety. Number two, you gotta be all in. You can't be somewhat in the water. You can't be halfway in the water. You can't just be kind of taking a risk. Come on, who am I talking to? Either you're in the water or you're not. You gotta go all in. It says, Peter got down out of the boat. Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. He had to be all in. You can't be kind of walking on the water. You can't be kind of taking a risk. You have to go all in. So Peter's walking out on the water. When he saw the wind around him, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." The third principle, you can't focus on the negative, because there's going to be naysayers in your life. There's going to be the kind of people that want to go and say, "You shouldn't have taken the risk. You shouldn't have done this. As soon as one bad thing happens here," I'm talking to me here. You got to stay focused. I've got to stay focused. We've got to stay focused on the thing that got us out of the boat in the first place. The risk that we took, the vision that we had, and that is what will see us through. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him and said, "O ye of little faith, why did you doubt?" So I want to tell you about a vision that the Lord gave me back in 2008. See, this was right after the economy crashed. I found myself working a factory job for a minimum wage. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have ever worked a minimum wage job, but they're not exactly the most fun jobs in the world. Now, it was a great company to work for, but the job paid minimum wage nonetheless. That was just the state of the economy at the time. And in that small factory, I had to make a decision. See, God had given me a vision that I would be doing ministry, touching every corner of the earth, spending time encouraging pastors and other missionaries. So I had to decide how I was going to live in that situation at the very bottom of the pole. See, the job was mediocre, but God had told me, no, Ben, you're not mediocre, you're excellent. Be faithful in the small things. As we begin to pray about this vision, things started to become a little bit more clear for us. You see, there was a few things that we didn't know. We didn't know that at that time, God was calling a couple from Ohio to purchase a property in Costa Rica to be used for ministry that would encourage pastors and missionaries from all around the world. We had no idea that God was calling a young couple from California to go be missionaries for an organization called Life Impact Ministries at that place in Costa Rica, and that they would build that property up to be used for the glory of God. God was saying to me at that time, be faithful in where I have put you. The Bible is very clear on this issue. He who is faithful in little will also be faithful in much. See, God was preparing our hearts for each step. He said, do this next. Put your house on the market. Boom, it's sold. Buy your tickets to go to Costa Rica. We didn't know where we were going to be living. We had no idea at the time that Life Impact even existed, but we knew that God was calling us and that He had a plan and that He had a mission for us. So we arrived in Costa Rica with a clear vision of what God wanted us to do, but not any idea of how we were going to do it. And the next couple years were really, really, really hard. In fact, there were so many times that the door just slammed shut in our face. We began to even question, God, did we hear you right? Is this what you wanted us to do? I mean, I thought you said that we'd be doing ministry in Costa Rica and touching every corner of the earth, encouraging pastors and missionaries. But we didn't know that at that time, the people that were serving with Life Impact, they were increasing the size of the guest house that would be used for pastors and missionaries. They were making the yard more beautiful. We didn't know any of this. All we could see was what was in front of us. Then one day, through a random Facebook post, we got introduced to this young missionary family from California and Life Impact Ministries. We even spent time on that property, not knowing that someday we'd be doing ministry out of it. Through spending time with that couple and praying with them, they encouraged us to join Life Impact Ministries and do ministry with them. I want to close with 3 real cool things about God and vision here real quick. Number 1, God knows your vision. The Bible is very clear. It says, before I knit you together in your mother's womb, I knew you. Which means He knew everything about you. He knows your passions. He knows your vision. He knows what it is that He prepared you to do. He created you to do. Number 2, God cares about your vision. God's about growing His kingdom. He's about His children doing great things for Him. And part of that includes your vision. Part of that includes my vision. Part of that includes all of our visions. And God cares about it because that's part of His kingdom. And number 3, God will help you accomplish it. As we lean into our visions, as we go for broke down the path that God has called us down, God will bring alongside us women and men who love Him and who are committed to seeing His kingdom be brought about on the earth. I wish I had time to tell you stories of the amazing men and women that the Lord has brought into our lives and helped us bring this vision into reality. But that's going to be for another video and for another time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know of anyone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. And if you like the content on this channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.